Welcome everyone to the Learning to Birth webinar series where we talk to some of the world's most interesting and inspiring thought leaders about birth and pregnancy. We have with us today Tasha Jennings. Welcome, Tasha.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to being involved.
Me too. Okay, everyone, it's very exciting that Tasha's here today. So Tasha is a naturopath and nutritionist. Now Tasha's worked you've been in national print media such as The Age, New Idea, Cosmo Pregnancy, Yahoo 7, Bub Hub, I love Bub Hub, Mouth of Mums, and you've even been on television shows that we know all about here in Australia, Kerry Ann Morning Show and David and Kim Morning Show. And this is where it's really exciting. You're the author of 2 books, The Vitamins Guide from 2013 and The Fertility Diet. So they're sold throughout Australia, the US, and the UK and Canada. Welcome, Tasha.
Thank you very much. Yes, I love reading and writing, and particularly fertility and pregnancy just really warms my heart. So that's, been my passion for a little while now.
You're obviously a fantastic communicator to have been like on the TV programs and across all those different newspapers and magazines. Do you want to tell us a bit about your background?
Yeah, it's been interesting. People say to me, oh, you must love public speaking. And I say, no, I don't. Yes. I'm just really passionate about communicating what I know and helping people create their families, create healthy babies, that it's become kind of a platform for me. And yes, I do enjoy it because I'm enjoying that message. But, do I enjoy getting up and speaking in general? No. But do I enjoy communicating that message and getting out to reach more people? Absolutely. So, yeah.
I have total empathy because when I did find out about the impact, of nutrition on pregnancy and also like everything that naturopathy has to offer, like I couldn't stop talking about it, and I can really understand how you want to share that message with everyone so that they know the things they can do about themselves, do for themselves. Do you want to tell us a bit about how you got into pregnancy nutrition and naturopathy and what drew you to it?
Well, I'd always been in my family as a child. I had recurrent ear infections, was something that my mum was constantly taking me to the doctor for. She finally got fed up, I think, on the 6th antibiotic that I was been taking, and she said, there's got to be a better way. And so she took me to see a naturopath, which was, in the 80s, it was probably not as common as it is now. So, and he fixed me, changed a few things in my diet. I never had to go back for any antibiotics. And so we saw him as, I guess, our very mainstay medical practitioner for most of my childhood. So that's something I really grew up enjoying. I loved health and nutrition. And so I really wanted to become a naturopath as soon as I finished high school. But it was funny, I guess, in that time, it was not as common as it is now, and people really deterred me against it. Even the college themselves went, you're 19, you're far too young to become a naturopath, go do a business degree, come back. And I'm like, I really want to do this. So I traveled.
Did you do a business degree? Did you do that?
No, I knew this is what I wanted to do. I didn't know what would be at the end of it, but I knew I wanted to do it. So I did one subject. I thought, look, let's test the water. Did one subject, then took some time off and did the traveling thing, and it came back. I'm like, no, I want to do this. So I jumped into it full time and became a naturopath nutritionist. And then I upgraded to a bachelor degree, which wasn't available at the time, and have loved it ever since. I think there's so many ways we can help people. And I worked in weight loss, I worked in product development, always worked in the pharmacy industry with doctors and pharmacists. I come from, I guess, a scientific approach to naturopathy in some ways, so that really gelled well with me. But as a lot of people in the fertility and pregnancy industry, it was really when I wanted to have my children that I became passionate about this, because as a healthy 30-year-old, I thought, pregnancy is going to be easy. I get told my whole life how easy it is to fall pregnant, so to be as simple as getting pregnant. And unfortunately, or fortunately, how I like to look at it now, it wasn't so easy. So we did have some fertility challenges, and so I just really got involved and started researching as much as I could about the key nutrients I needed and what I needed to boost my chances. And I don't do things by half. So as you can see, I love reading. So I just got into all the research, and I ended up, going through all my books. But then beyond that, I emailed the researchers and said, from New York to Italy, why did you use this dose? Why did you use this formula, this nutrient? And most of them were so receptive to emailing me back. And really, I've developed some strong relationships with these people, which was really exciting. And that's how my podcast came about, because I'm like, I need to share your story as well.
They were probably just really happy that someone was out there reading and understanding their work. Like it's just probably what they live for.
They were, and it was really nice for them, I guess, to know that someone in Australia was reading and analysing their research. They were so happy to provide me the information, and that's when I thought, well, I was really fortunate enough. I'm a naturopath. My husband's a doctor. We were pretty much able to, within 12 months of really understanding what was going on for us, we were pregnant. So, but not everyone has access to that information or know where to find it. And Google is a enticingly evil place sometimes. There's so much conflicting information. I was just on a Skype call to a patient this morning, and she just said, I feel overwhelmed. My doctor asked me a couple of questions and I walk out with a million more, and then I Google and get scared, and there's a lot of overwhelming information. So yeah, I became passionate about getting across the right information to people.
I'm so encouraged by your story, because it's actually a rare thing to hear, like, of a person who's a teenager who's like, yeah, I really want to do this thing and I'm going to do it, and like no one can deter them. And it sounds almost like it was kind of like a hard gift, but a gift that it was you who had those challenges, because you had the perfect skills and the perfect kind of like mentality to go, okay, how do this is like a level 3 problem, but I'm a level 4 person. How can I solve it? And then you've actually gone forward and taught people. So I guess it'd be really interesting to know, like, how did your background in nutrition and naturopathy help you, like, while you were pregnant?
Well, as I said, unfortunately we had issues, but I now see it as fortunately, because it made me obviously a naturopath, but I realized I really didn't have a great understanding, except for the, obligatory menstrual cycle classes that we did and things like that. I didn't really have an understanding of what is involved in creating a pregnancy. So I was able to look at those, and now, in my opinion, the 90 days prior to conceiving is the most important time in your child's life.
Wow.
It is during those 90 days when that egg is developing, it's yet to be popped out at ovulation, it's yet to be fertilized. You can actually optimize the DNA you pass on to your future child. So the environment that egg is developing in can influence epigenetics, disease predispositions, and all sorts of things, learning, memory, behavior for the rest of their life. So once that egg is fertilized, we can nourish it and nurture it, but the DNA is somewhat set in stone. So it's really that preconception period that is so important, that I was able to obviously really work on for myself. And that's why I became passionate about sharing the information more widely, because a lot of the patients come to me, either they're already pregnant or they had 9 years of struggle, or, I said, I want to catch these people early. So many of my patients, say to me, I wish I had known you like 5 years ago, because now I'm 42 and I'm really struggling, but I'm so much better. I'm in a great place. But if I had known you when I was, 36 and trying, and before I went through all these IVF struggles and things. So I thought, well, I need to communicate this information so people who are wanting to fall pregnant are mindful. Oh, wow, it is before I get pregnant that I'm already nurturing my future child, because my motto is being the best mum starts well before birth, and actually starts now. If you're considering having a child, you're already nourishing your future child right now. So yeah.
My mind, I'll be honest, Tasha, my mind's been blown, because this is like so many implications, like for conscious conception. And, often, like, I think, when we have, people sometimes who are pregnant, it's just like, oops, see it happen. I mean, I'm to blame for that, a couple of times. And, but, I think, maybe once you've done the journey once, and then you're thinking about your second child, and mums often tend to, I think, from the mums I talk to in my circle, we tend to plan the second child a bit more. We go, do we want a child really close, to have them close together, or do we want to have a gap between them? There's pros and cons for both of it, but the second child, we do tend to plan when they come a little bit, I think. And so this is a really good idea to go and read your book and maybe have a one-on-one with you, because it just sounds like there's just so much here that a person needs to know.
So much preparation, and as I like to say, we often spend weeks and months decorating and painting the nursery when we're pregnant for the new arrival, so it looks amazing. But you know, your baby won't know any of that. And the most important nursery that your child will ever have is the one inside you. And that is the one that you really want to be decorating those walls, getting that really healthy uterine environment, preparing that DNA, getting that healthy environment, getting that healthy egg, making sure you've got a plentiful supply of nutrients to immediately fuel that rapid growth and development. So that is the one you want to paint and decorate even more so than your baby's nursery when they're already there. So
amazing. Let's say you know, some of the ladies and people listening to this show, you know, maybe they haven't done this preparation before, and you know, maybe we're not even taking, you know, multivitamins or anything. We just don't know where to start. How do you know when you need to go and see someone who's a naturopath or a nutritionist?
I think by the time you think you need to go, you're well and truly needing to go.
All right, there's your answer. Do you want to, you know, maybe like, I have to say that I'm a little bit guilty here. I remember being 18 and having a girl I knew in my network say, oh, I'm going to go and do nutrition at uni. And I was like, what is that? You know, don't think you want to do that. So I didn't even know what this stuff was until I had my first baby, and I was so sick. I could only like crawl across the floor to get to the bathroom. That was as much as I could do. So I guess I didn't even know who to talk to for help, and I was really lucky. And I met some really great people, and some of them will even be in this webinar series. But do you want to tell people who are new to this whole world, like what is a naturopath? What is, you know, a nutritionist? What do they do?
Well, we look at things very holistically, I guess, and coming from the various science model, I do like to see the blood test, same as your doctor would normally. So I like to see what their levels are doing, but I guess I look at it with a keener eye. So a doctor is looking at, you know, preventing disease, and are you absolutely deficient? Are your levels really well and truly below what we'd like to see or above what we'd like to see?
Yeah.
I like to see health. So when I look at reference ranges, I always get people to send their blood tests, because I often say, oh, no, my GP said I'm absolutely fine. And often fine is fine, but especially, I mean, I don't want to just survive. I want to thrive and have a thriving, healthy life. But when we're talking about creating a new life, we really want to be optimal conditions. So I will look at reference ranges a little bit tighter and a little bit narrower than most people, to make sure we're in the optimum ranges for a lot of things. I will usually do a little bit more thorough testing than a lot of people will get. So I like to see what everything's doing and how you're metabolizing it as well. I think, for example, getting a folate blood test is something I do. It's really important, but often it'll come up really high and your GP will say, oh, awesome, high blood folate. That will alarm bell to me. I'm like, okay, why is it high in your blood? Is it getting to your cells? Is it actually being metabolized and utilized to where it needs to be? And if it's not, then that has massive implications for your ability to conceive and miscarriage risk and your ability to carry a pregnancy. So I will then look at their homocysteine and a few other cofactors, which shows me, is it actually being metabolized and utilized by your body into your bloodstream? So it's, yeah, I guess I look at things a bit more in detail and make sure, because that alone has helped a lot of patients by just going, okay, let's get your folate, because folate is so important to a pregnancy. We can't sustain a pregnancy without it, yet we're totally reliant on dietary sources. We need to get it through our diet. We don't manufacture it ourselves. Unfortunately, dietary supply, you know, people say, I never took supplements. You know, my grandmother had 6 kids and she never took anything. But in all likelihood, if she was like my nan or my grandma, she was getting her silver beet from the backyard or the local grocery store. It was really close. So folate is an extremely unstable nutrient. So if there's transporting and if there's processing, anything with a barcode, basically I say to my patients, it's probably killing the folate. Also heating it. So unfortunately, if you cook the silver beet like my nan used to until it's nearly dead, then that will also kill the folate. But anything with a barcode, which we eat a lot of processed foods, is fortified with folic acid. Now that's not the same thing as folate. Folate is the nutrient used by the body and our body can actually utilize in the bloodstream. Folic acid is a synthetic supplemental source of that nutrient. And around 50% of the population have difficulty metabolizing folic acid, which takes 4 steps in the body to convert to a usable form of folate. So I often see patients that will take massive loads of folic acid, up to 5 milligrams sometimes, which is well above, what they should be taking. But if you're just pushing that one pathway, it's still not getting into their blood, into their cells. So the GP gives them the massive whack of folic acid. They see it high in their, blood test. Awesome. No, that's not necessarily the case. So it's all about getting the right form. That's what my book, The Vitamins Guide, why I wrote that. I actually got approached by the publisher. I got approached by the publisher after I wrote an article for the Herald Sun. He loved the article and said, would you like to turn that into a book? And that was just awesome. I love to write, and I really wanted to communicate with my background in product development that it's not just about having the nutrient in the tablet. That's all well and good, but is it in the right form? And is it in the right dose to actually be utilized in the body? I guess being involved in product development in the pharma industry, there are a lot of companies that are getting the cheapest form, so it can just be on the packet and be listed there, and that's all well and good, and the consumer thinks, oh, that's in my formula, that's great. But it's the form and the dose that is the most important thing. It's also the cofactors that go with it to make sure it's actually going to be able to be taken to the cells. So I wrote that to give people the ability to ignore the front of the packet, ignore the marketing, pick it up and look what's in there, and actually, is it in the right form in the dose? And for example, iron should not cause massive constipation, but so many people just think, if I take an iron supplement, I need to for my my blood levels, but of course it's going to constipate me, make me nauseous. No, it shouldn't. And it kind of makes sense that if it is, then it's obviously not being metabolized because it's sitting in your guts. That's not an issue. That's a problem. We want to be absorbing it, metabolizing it. It want to be in the gut and then used. So that's what we want to see with our nutrients. So
that's amazing. How I learned to think about it after going through my journey and starting to learn about these things is that, my dad's a doctor, so bless doctors. My mum's a nurse, so I grew up with a medical background. So I'm totally,
wow, my husband's a cardiologist, so.
The doctors are trained to identify sick people, right? But pregnancy is all about how well can you be? How well can you and your baby be? And that's where I see the real benefit of people like yourself with your training and your knowledge and your background really have to add, because, the doctor can catch us once we're sick, but we don't want to get there. We want to stay feeling fantastic. And it's great to hear what you're doing. You talked about folate, about, silver beet and grandma in the garden. I guess, what are some of the things that people listening here today who might be pregnant, what can we do to keep ourselves healthy during pregnancy?
Well, eating a wide variety of food is really important, and color is really important, phytonutrients. So your oranges, your reds, your purples, and eating a variety of those things. Like, don't just say, I'll pick carrots, they're orange, I'll just eat lots of carrots. Pick a wide variety of foods. And probably the number one thing I always tell my patients is know where your food came from.
Yes.
I'm a massive fan of farmers markets. It's a tradition. I meet my brother there. We have a family outing. I get all my veggies for the weekend. We know the grower. We know, sometimes he's picked it that morning and he'll give the kids some apples that are nice and fresh. I know where those vegetables came from. I know the pesticides that have been on them. But a lot of the time, that's not always feasible for people. Still shopping in the supermarket, we are getting the veggies off the shelf. But a lot of the time, there is an Australian section now, which kind of means that most of the other veggies are sourced all over the place. So we're not eating seasonally, which we really should be, because they're the foods that our body is going to need more root vegetables and things like that in winter and more of the fruits in summer. So we really should be eating seasonally. And even if you can't go to the farmer's market, that'd be ideal, or have a veggie patch in the backyard. That'd be awesome. Not always practical, but even ask your grocer, what is in season? Are these local? They'll be happy to tell you. Same as the researchers. I love the grocers like, oh yeah, these are from Doncaster, these tomatoes or these. But getting your food less shipped, less processed, and as close to the ground or the tree as possible really improves the nutrition in them, obviously, because it hasn't had a chance to deteriorate. We're thawing and processing. I know I saw a documentary one time about apples. And the fact that they were picked from America, and that the journey took almost it felt like 12 months or something by the time they actually got to Australia. And then we polished them all and coloured them all and popped them on their supermarket shelves.
Ripened them up.
yeah, are you eating those apples, or are you eating something that the grower just picked? And that is going to be better for you in a lot of ways. Nutrient wise, obviously less pesticides, which unfortunately pesticides we're even finding in follicular fluid, in seminal fluid, like it's just ubiquitous. Minimizing those where you can. And also its own life force. When we're wanting to create a pregnancy, we're wanting to fuel life.
Yeah.
Whole dead food versus alive food. Anything with a barcode or process is kind of, there's no life in that. If it's going to last 12 months on the shelf, it's got no life force left.
No.
You want things that are going to be sitting on the bench and they'll go off within a week. That's got its own vitality. That's got its own life force, in my opinion, beyond even the nutritional value of it. So
I totally resonate with what you're saying. I was really lucky. I mean, I did come from like that human rights background that I mentioned. And then in my really early 20s, I might have still been finishing like my original degree. I saw this documentary about these towns, maybe in South America, where they manufactured the pesticides, and that the kids uphill from the manufactured plants were fine, but the kids downhill like had some serious health problems, downstream. And from that moment, I might have been 22. I made that commitment. I'm just eating organic. So I was actually really lucky. It was just not accidental. It was intentional, but I ate organic just, through my kind of like, what my caring for people, and the world, and not wanting people to suffer in that way. And so I ate organic. So I think, my son and he got a really good diet, I kind of lucked out a bit, but he was pretty all right growing in me. And then I think the trouble is when you're a mum though, you can just start to let it all slide, because you get kind of like, it's like packet of chips. Yeah, all right, that'll do. that'll get me through today, So I guess, what are some key kind of like, what are some things that a mum can do? Like, what nutrients should she be looking at to really support her?
Well, if she's breastfeeding, choline is really important. And choline is.
I didn't know that. I thought that was just important during the pregnancy. I didn't know it was important actually through breastfeeding.
Actually becomes more important during breastfeeding.
Boom.
Yeah, the recommended intake actually increases during breastfeeding. It was one of the very few nutrients that does that, increase.
Wow.
It fuels the development of the brain. So obviously brain development during pregnancy is super important. So we have an increased need then. But when that brain is out, when that brain is absorbing things, making all those connections, because choline is involved in the neurotransmitter acetylcholine, which basically helps cells communicate. So
oh my gosh.
It's so important for all those brain connections. So we really want to be fueling that. And that's obviously really high in breast milk as well. So getting plenty of that. And 90% of women aren't getting enough, which is quite a concern, because most people aren't aware of it. We're like, what's choline? I haven't heard of choline. I did a presentation to fertility nurses yesterday, and we talked about folate, and everyone's like, yeah, we know about that. Choline, all of them, 25 nurses there, and I said, no, don't know what that is.
Is it only in eggs? Where can you get it normally in your diet?
Eggs are one of the richest sources. It is soluble or fat soluble, so it is in meats and eggs. Lecithin and granules is a good vegetarian or vegan supply, but vegetarians or vegans are at most risk of deficiency. You really need to make an effort. I'm largely vegetarian myself, so not saying you need to eat meat to get it, but I do a lot of those things in the vitamins guide to tell people what foods to look at to get enough. And also looking for a prenatal that provides choline. The American Medical Association, I think their research is far ahead of mine, of ours in Australia. They actually made recommendations in 2017 for choline to be included in all prenatal supplements.
Wow.
So it's not here yet. So most of our over-the-counter ones don't provide choline. So obviously recommend one that does provide choline, plus a plentiful supply in your diet as well is really important for that brain development.
Wow. I was in a mum's group on Facebook this morning, and someone posted a really interesting post. They said, am I the only person here who's not taking my supplements during pregnancy? And I was like, oh, this is interesting, because we were talking today, so my ears pricked up. And 50 people then comment below, I don't take them either, And the thing is, when you're pregnant, oh my gosh, you're just so delicate inside, and taking another big tablet, and sometimes things are, they hurt, and you've got all things coming out of you. You just don't want to keep things down. How does a mom pick a good multivitamin to work with her whilst she's, growing baby and trying to look after herself?
And look, a lot of the supplements will make you feel nauseous, will make you feel constipated. I'm not going to deny that. But generally because they're in the wrong form and the wrong dose again. So
right.
Obviously, behind me is Zycia Natal Nutrients, which is my company. That is probably the best feedback I've got, regardless of anything else. People will email me saying, oh my gosh, I'm not nauseous, I'm not constipated, because the nutrients are getting to where they need to be. And that is the most important thing about a prenatal supplement. So get onto one that has the right forms, the right dose. Obviously, Zycia is the one I recommend during pregnancy and breastfeeding and preconception. Yeah. But looking at understanding, like, iron should be in a chelated form, so it's already broken down into a form the body can absorb. It shouldn't be in a big whack. I think there's a misperception about iron that everyone needs it. I always check blood levels and check their ferritin, check their transferrin, what is their iron stores doing before I blanketly give. A lot of prenatal, some of the prenatals on the market, probably the main one, has a massive whack of iron, actually above the upper safe limit, which is 3 times the RDI, even while in preconception and pregnancy. So it's far too high. It's also in quite a harsh form, so it will constipate most people, I think. So we really want to be getting it in the right form, in the right dose. Again, it's not about a massive dose. People think more is better. Obviously, if it's good, if I take more, it'll be better. No, in the right form, if it's getting to where it needs to be, it shouldn't be in a big dose. It's just about getting to where it needs to be. And dietary source is obviously really important.
Yeah.
Why I recommend a supplement, people will say, oh, my nan again, she didn't have any supplements and she was fine. But for example, folate is lost out of the system really quickly. Same with vitamin C. Vitamin C is actually every 4 hours. It's water soluble. You take one dose, we get rid of it. So we really need to replenish those stores. Vitamin C pretty much every few hours, folate pretty much daily. So, is my diet perfect every day? No, I try to be, but, during pregnancy and breastfeeding, it's too important to rely on diet alone, in my opinion. But I see a multi as your insurance policy. So I see people one way or the other. They either take their supplement and say, I can eat whatever I want because I've got everything I need in there, so it doesn't matter what I eat. No, that's not the case. Diet is still really important. Or I have people saying, I eat well, so I don't need the supplement. I recommend, because it is so important, and you really only get this one shot at developing a beautiful baby. You don't get to have a rerun. You don't, and who knows, you improve as much as you can. I think this is the best investment in your child's future you will ever make, is from preconception to 6 months of age. Forget the $50,000 on school fees. If you want to improve their brain, their learning, their memory capacity, their genetic predisposition to diseases, you really want to do that now. So it's a lot cheaper to do it now, and then you can fuel their growth and development later on.
So you've recommended a particular brand there. Is that something someone can buy online, or do they need to see someone like you to access that brand?
No, that one you can buy through my website, through zycia.com.au as well. It's also in Slade's pharmacies, Great Earth health food stores. So we are sort of growing in the distribution.
We'll get the link from you, and we'll make sure we put it down below, because there might be people internationally who might want to access it and find out, actually read all about it. What you're saying is so important, because I was really lucky. I had a childhood where I grew up on a really big farm. And this was back in the days where this was before permaculture, before organic, before any, people knew about biodynamic and stuff, but it wasn't practiced. And my parents, they went and created this farm, and they created, all these dams and put trees everywhere around fence lines. And, they bumbled along. I'm not going to say everything they did was perfect, but they had this sort of idea that you look after the land, because my dad was a doctor, look after the land and it's going to feed you better, right? And I saw over my childhood and, all the years, how my parents, they farmed differently to everyone around them. They were ridiculed by all the old farmers around them, and the other farmers around them, they would graze everything bare. you know, the animals were always in poor condition. The animals would just die in the paddock, whereas our animals were always like, you know, bursting with health. And I really got to see like the other, you know, what happens, like the chain of food, like we get in the supermarket, no matter how healthy it says on that packet it is, if the nutrients like haven't been looked after, like if there's just been erosion and everything's washed away and the animal's, you know, unhealthy, and then you're consuming it, that's going to be a very different animal compared to the one that's, you know, being farmed on, you know, land that's where the nutrients are being looked after and everything. So it's not just about like not every silver beet is created equal, and you kind of really need to know that pathway of how the foods come to you, and that's the story of why in this culture we need to come and talk to people like you and get assessed and find out exactly what we in our bodies are needing. But mums, you know, we can't blame ourselves if we get it wrong, if we didn't know this stuff before we go creating that baby, because it's just, we don't know in our society. We're not taught. It's not just like, you know, how to give birth to a baby isn't taught to us. We're not taught really about the things that you're talking about either.
We're not. And so I don't want moms to think, oh my gosh, I didn't do that, so I've scarred my child for life. Absolutely not. You know, this is just something that is, once we know, we can improve. Yes. And look, there's even things that I could have done that I now know of. My, you know, my kids are now 5 and 7. So there was a lot of learning I've done even since then that I think, oh, I should have done that, I should have done that. So mum guilt, take it away. If you're listening to this and you're ready to have the child, then absolutely don't worry about what you've already done. It's a matter of, okay, what can I do going forward to support their growth and development? And being a mum is really hard. So I'm not going to say that anything is going to be a smooth, easy run, but it's making it as easy as possible. And getting your own nutrition right can help you have the energy to breastfeeding or not, whether, you know, you're just growing the baby inside you still, or you're pregnant. It can help you, you know, your immune system's naturally reduced during pregnancy. So if we can support your immune system, you'll get less colds, you'll get less, you know, gastro and things like that can interfere with your pregnancy. So there's a lot of things we can do to just make sure that you're thriving, because particularly in pregnancy, your baby will take everything from you. It'll leach calcium out of your bones.
Everything.
So it will leave you feeling quite depleted. And I was very fortunate, I guess, having the knowledge. I had an awesome pregnancy, I have to say. I had no lack of energy. I felt really well during the pregnancy, and that's what really we should be feeling. Look, I had some nausea, and there was, you know, a day we went on holidays and I ate the mini bar of chocolate. So I'm not saying it was perfect, but that's all okay. You're allowed to do that on occasion. But that wasn't my staple by any means. And I had a wonderful pregnancy. I had plenty of energy all the way through, and I was able to know the nutrients leading up to birth. I had a really great natural birth with both of my kids. And fortunately, working at the delivery room, I had the nurses come up to me and say, "Are you kidding me? You just had a baby." I was fortunate enough, I got straight back into my old jeans. And both of my kids. So if we can really manage it well, eat really well, enough, get the right nutrients, there's no reason we need to be, you know, on our deathbed during pregnancy.
This is like totally off the cuff here, but because this is again another thing that I know mums have trouble with. But I often hear about, you know, mums having trouble with that nausea during pregnancy, morning sickness. And I mean, I have to be honest, I did as well, but I was really lucky. It was really limited. And I think I learned somewhere early that if you got enough B vitamin, you don't really get morning sickness. Is that real, that thing, or is there something else they need to do?
Look, yes and no, and that is an absolute issue. And there is some severe conditions. I actually wrote an article for The Age about when the princess, gosh, there's too many princesses these days, not Meghan, Catherine, was having her pregnancy and having those issues. And they are hormonally driven, so don't think you can just fix all those issues.
Yeah.
B6 is really important. So yes, an active form of B6 for some people is necessary, again, to the cells. So getting the right dose of B6, and I usually combine that with ginger. I know
Yes.
there are some morning sickness tablets out there that have both in there, which is not bad, but I prefer to separate them just in case I need to give a high dose of B6 or a high dose of ginger or either. But a good balance of those, plus regular protein, good balanced carbohydrates, so getting, not letting your blood sugar drop. There's a lot of things you can do to alleviate those symptoms. And mild to moderate morning sickness is usually really, really treatable. When it gets to those more severe cases, obviously they're more involved.
Yeah.
But definitely manageable. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. And another thing that women really have on their minds when they're, pregnant is as their bodies increase. I just thought, I might get stretch marks on my belly, but it was my boobies that suffered, right?
Yeah.
The belly was fine. It was the boobies. So I guess, a mum might be thinking, how do I look after my skin? I mean, both, our bellies, our hips and everything, but also like in terms of like how our perineum has to stretch. How can a mum kind of support her skin during pregnancy?
Probably the best ones in the lead up to birth and that sort of thing is bioflavonoids, really important, and vitamin C.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're in orange and red foods and broccoli. It's a green one, but they're in broccoli. So the orange and red foods, and it's often combined with vitamin D. If you get a good vitamin C supplement, you'll often have bioflavonoids with it. That's really good for skin. Vitamin C itself is an antioxidant. Again, small doses in divided doses over the day rather than a big hit all at once. So I'd say, 200 to 500 milligrams, just, a good few times a day. Vitamin E, really important.
Vitamin E, definitely.
Probably between 500 and 800 IU for most people. Essential fatty acids in the form of flaxseed or fish oil or both. I've flax in the diet as as an oil, and then a good quality fish oil, preferably not those big tubs in the pharmacy. We want to make sure that the oil, it's really hard for those things. They're quite unstable, so we don't want rancid oil. So, and
you don't want heavy metals in it either. Like you don't want it with mercury and,
We want to really clean. I usually use practitioner brands for that for my patients, I have to say. But in saying that, it sounds the best quality you can afford pretty much. And usually, unfortunately, they are a higher price, but they're worth it. So taking some good quality fish oil, eating it in your diet as well. Again, with the mercury concentration, you really want to focus on smaller fish. So the bigger fish, like your flake and your swordfish, they eat the smaller fish. So they're higher in mercury because they've eaten all those other fish that have mercury as well. So sardines, salmon, trout, those sorts of foods are going to be better sources than, eating flake and a larger fish.
I have to say the whole bioflavonoids is news to me. I'm going to have to go away and look this up and look at how to get those in my diet. I have no idea. But like fish oils it's really surprising how expensive, like really super expensive, the high quality. I think I used to take Nordic Naturals as a brand. Fish oil, they were recommended to me early on, maybe after my first child, but it really makes such a difference. And it's really worthwhile. If there's one thing that you're going to spend your money on while you're pregnant, fish oil, it's crazy. Fish oil is probably going to be it. How do vegetarians access those oils if they don't want to take fish oil?
Flaxseed is the best option for that. And I use it in the actual oil. You can take capsules as well, but I find just drizzle it over your salads. It's quite a nutty flavor and use it as an oil. You can take a couple of tablespoons a day. I had patients who just like to just pop it down straight. I'm not a big fan of drinking oil straight, so I prefer to use it in things, or put it in smoothies. I use it in a smoothie, so that's a good way to get it. Also, nuts and seeds and things like that as well are high in good fats. So
I found this brand of sprouted flaxseed. I'm actually adding it to my smoothies. Actually got my daughter to have a smoothie with some sprouted flaxseed in it. She's like a white bread and butter kind of girl. I don't know.
Right.
Well, I went wrong with her somehow, but that's all she'll eat, cake and bread. But the sprouted flaxseed, I just find the oil a little bit hard on the tongue. The taste and me don't go well together, but the actual seed, the smoothie sprouted, tastes great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
whip it up. It's got. I love the taste of flax. It's quite nutty, so you can't even get the seeds themselves. You can
Yeah.
grind them yourselves. You can sprinkle things and chew them, but just chew them. They can tend to go straight through you.
Yes. No, don't. Yeah, you have to have them broken up.
Smoothie or whiz them up or something. Yeah.
Are there any success stories about people who've come to you that you can tell us about?
Oh, I love my success stories. I love my baby photos. It's amazing. And probably more recently, I had a woman come to me who thought she couldn't conceive naturally. She had issues and complications, and she had a few tubal issues, and there were issues, but I thought, well, let's work together. I can't see a complete barrier. I think we can do this. So fortunately for her, we improved a couple of things, particularly in her mineral balance, her folate levels. She had a few genetic mutations that she worked on. Within 3 months, she was pregnant, and she's had Bob. I'm seeing her through breastfeeding. So that's really, like, she was just shocked. I remember her email, like, oh my God, I'm pregnant. Like, I didn't think this could happen. So
soon.
Really makes my day when I hear stories like that. And she'd been trying for some time and being told by specialists it's not going to happen. And just by digging deeper and understanding, that makes all the difference. So I had another woman who'd had a terrible IVF journey, unfortunately, and did have a blocked tube and slight issues with the other one. So again, they were higher risk, but she had a lot of issues around inflammation. There was endometriosis, a lot of inflammatory processes. So she was really compliant, which was great. So work with the diet, reducing inflammation, because inflammation is a killer to egg quality and getting pregnant. There's a lot of natural killer cells. It just flames the immune system. So just by dampening that down and working with her diet to reduce the inflammation, again, got the baby photos. She just sent me another text the other day with a little photo of her son, and then holding her daughter. It's just, that's what I do it for. That just really heartens me. And I really like that's why I want to get the information out earlier, because I see a lot of people. I get a lot of referrals. I work with the big IVF clinics. So I get a lot of referrals of tough cases or of people who've been trying for a long time. So I really would like to get to see them earlier. And there are a few clinics referring early, which is really good. But the biggest feedback I get is that I actually listen I spend an hour with my initial consultation, and it's just listening and asking. I don't do anything. We meet the following week where I present a fertility care plan, and I guess they're my recommendations in relation to the blood tests that I've received from doctors, and refer for a few more. But I just spend an hour going over their complete history, because the number one symptom I get coming to me with is unexplained infertility.
It'd be really good, wouldn't it, if the clinics, before they started treating people for fertility and all the ordeal that a person has to go through for that, if they just did send them to someone like you and to have a check over, that would be fantastic.
Absolutely, because IVF is amazing. Like, I work with, some wonderful clinics, but it only gets the egg and sperm together. It's not a miracle fix that a lot of people think that it is. So you can provide the clinic with better egg, better sperm, again, not just within reference range kind of thing, optimal range, healthy uterine lining, then, hopefully one shot is all you're going to need, compared to people who go through multiple rounds, and that is taxing on the body too. So spending that time, and as women, we have carried our eggs our whole life. So the journey, that's why I go back to even their mother's pregnancy. I go back to, what was your mother's pregnancy like? Because that's when your eggs were developed. That's what we understand. What we often see glandular fever, there's allergies, there's things in their history that are unique to them that I can then work on to go, okay, this is why you're at your position. And then I can look at the blood tests and see, okay, this is why you're getting this. Because probably I've seen 2 patients this morning with low hormone levels, like completely low, both for 2 different reasons. And so instead of looking at those tests, I got the test results, but then after speaking with them and doing a couple of investigations, one was really low zinc levels and high copper. High copper pushes down the zinc. We really need to fix that. Look, we need it, but a lot of people are too high, and then we don't get enough zinc. So we needed to fix that for her. The other one, I looked into it, and we looked at her cortisol levels and her adrenals, and she was just stressed and depleted. So for that reason. So instead of just going, okay, these people are the same, my treatment was totally different for the same pretty much set of results. So it's really looking at the personalized approach. And I love the quote, it's far more important to know what sort of disease a person, what sort of disease, what disease a person has? No, what sort of person has a disease than what sort of disease a person has. I'm getting it all mixed up.
No, I get it.
By an amazing guy. I'm a bit of a history nerd, but Hippocrates.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I just think he's amazing. And the more research I did into medical history and his background, he actually created, obviously, the medical model we are today. But I think we actually, if we understood what he was about, we've diverted from that a little bit. He learnt his medical training was very, here's the heart, here's the lungs, very segregated. But he actually decided to disband that and set up his own way of thinking, which was far more holistic. We're looking at a whole person here. All these systems surely should be intertwined. And I think that's what we're heading back to, because all the systems do affect each other, particularly when it comes to reproduction. So
yeah, oh my gosh, so much information there. And it's quite unique actually. Once you do experience being a mum, other mums, you know, or people who want to be mums actually confide in you more, I found, and say, oh, you know, I've tried to get pregnant, I couldn't, or I've had this problem. So, you know, if you are listening to this and you do know other mums or other people out there who want to be mums and are maybe having trouble, definitely like send them to this video so they can learn about Tasha and her work and what maybe differences, different ways they can be approaching it in their lives. Look, I'd love to find out from you, we've talked about, you know, choline and breastfeeding. Is there anything else that we really need to support us and baby when we're breastfeeding?
I guess the biggest ones, yeah, folate and choline.
Folate, yes.
Getting enough essential fatty acids is always really important.
Yes.
Hydration and minerals in general, obviously zinc, magnesium, but getting a good mineral. When I see, again, I was just seeing a patient who had her baby, she's breastfeeding, and I don't generally see them through breastfeeding. I'm pretty much fertility. She emailed me and she goes, I'm feeling really flat. My milk supply's dropped. What do you think? So I just wrote up a letter for a GP and just said, look, get these tests. And as I suspected, zinc has hit the floor. Minerals have hit the floor. So she's coming back in, like, let's get those minerals back up again.
Fantastic.
They are very quickly depleted from you. So we really need to keep an eye on those during breastfeeding for you and make sure you've got supply for your milk supply and for you as well. So
don't just stop with the multivitamin once you've had the baby. You got to keep on up.
Yeah.
We've heard all about you and about, you know, the supplements and cofactors we need. What inspired your books? How did you come to write those?
Well, the first one, the Vitamins Guide was, kind of an accidental writing a book. I wrote an article for the Herald Sun, which is all about nutrients and the best forms, sources, supplementary sources. And the publisher approached me and said, look, I've really read your article. Would you like to write the book? So that's when I wrote the Vitamins Guide. But it's when I was on the verge of really getting into fertility. I was having my own struggles. So I actually said to him, I'm happy to write this book, but my passion is actually here. So fertility diet, I said, would you be interested if I'll definitely write this one for you, but would you be interested if I could write one about fertility as well? So he took me on for both books. So first of all, I wrote the Vitamins Guide. The second one worked quite well. I wrote it while I was heavily pregnant with my daughter. So that was really where I go into, you know, everything I'd learned about how to create a healthy pregnancy. And at the end, it's a very practical book. So I'll go through a 90-day plan that you can follow which has the fertility diet with recipes and things like that, to really focus on those 90 days prior to conception to give you the best chance of pregnancy. And I've had a lot of emails about that book, which is wonderful. I had just, random people she said, oh, my dad gave this book to me. And she said, it's just the best thing I've ever read. I did your 90-day plan and I now have my daughter. She sent me a photo and I'm like, that's just really lovely that someone took the time to write that. I didn't know her at all. So I think it's just really practical information. Just like this webinar, I love being involved in these things. I know a lot of the research. I love it all, obviously, from a textbook behind me, but what my passion is breaking that down into a really easy, practical form. You don't need to know this. I need to know this. You just need to know how to implement it and what to do. So that's what I mainly try to get across.
Your books sound amazing. I think whether you're pregnant or not, definitely read the fertility book, because, we often consider having a second child or third or fourth or not, and how we prepare for that. And the vitamins book is going to be really good, because I remember after, being, like I said, so sick, I took a total deep dive, and the modality, the teacher of the school that kind of healed me, I read all his books about this stuff. And the sooner that you can educate yourself, the better, because you'll be in a situation, once your children are older and socializing, maybe going to kinder or childcare and then school, they're going to be getting sick, and if you have the background knowledge about zinc, about vitamin C, like I just had this beautiful experience when my children were younger, that if I was able to keep them pretty well, and if I did notice them getting sick, I was able to know how to heal it pretty quickly using vitamins and stay away from more invasive kind of treatments for them. So it's a really good background for a mum who's got a bit of time to go read those books. Do you have a freebie for us, Tasha?
I do have a great checklist. Again, I like to make things really practical, really simple to implement. So the checklist is something I recommend, as you said, at any stage of your journey, but obviously I work particularly with fertility.
Yeah.
But it's just a checklist of really simple swaps that you can do to maximize your nutrient value in your food. So just swap this for this, swap this for this, simple things you can do.
Yeah.
Instead of having to go through, all the supplements and all the nutrients, just simple things you can do in your diet. So that's at tashajennings.com.au/checklist.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just a free download.
And we'll have the link on your blog post on learning to birth anyway. We'll put that up for you. Well, thank you for your time, Tasha. I like to ask a bit of a general question as we go at the end, so that, and it's probably in my question is going to be like a lot of the things probably that you've already said. So, you don't have to repeat yourself. You can give us a new answer, or just say, I've already answered that, Akasha, leave me alone. But my question was going to be, what's the key things women can do to optimize their birthing outcomes?
Well, obviously I've talked about nutrition. Bioflavonoids, vitamin C, iron particularly. Again, I'll just get it tested, not necessarily take it, but just check your iron in that third trimester to see if you need to pop it up there, and take it in a chelated form if you do need to.
Yeah.
B vitamins, that's the other thing for energy, and vitamin E for the healing, that sort of thing. Probiotics, I didn't mention, actually, I should mention that. There's some specific strains that I use depending on the person, but in general there's some great mother and baby formulas. That's excellent for really replenishing your good gut bacteria and really colonizing that great flora that the baby gets, when they're actually birthing. So probiotics are great all the way through pregnancy, particularly in that last trimester as you're heading towards birth. But just going in with such a positive attitude, and I love the calm birth. I did that and had natural birthing, and also I think go in with a bit of a plan, but not too rigid a plan. Babies will come into the world whatever the way they are going to come into the world, and some things we cannot plan for. When we're talking about fertility, when we're talking about babies, I always say we have a loose plan.
Yeah.
Babies have their own timing of arriving, being conceived, of arriving into this world. So a loose plan is always a great idea, but a positive attitude towards it, and whatever comes, just do what's best for you, and take as much advice as you can, but always put it through your own filter is what I suggest to mums, because there's so much information thrown at you, and often I had it as a new mum, you feel like you should do this, I should do that. But the more I guess even my second child, as you said, I felt more comfortable. I'm like, no, this feels right to me. So I'll listen to this advice and I'll take what I need, but just to listen to your own body and listen to what your body needs and your baby needs, because you know best.
All right. It's been amazing, Tasha. Thank you for your time with us. And I hope everybody gets a chance to read your book and get access to these, important nutrition supplements and that you're talking about, because it sounds like it's going to make us all feel so much better and improve our lives in so many ways. So thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for creating this great space and this webinar series that so many people are going to benefit from.
Yeah, awesome. All right. Thank you. Bye, Tasha. Bye, everyone.